Alright, what is going on YouTube? Welcome to Viper versus Vivi. An interesting first round match here from the $20,000 SteelSeries 1v1 AoE 4 tournament. It's the round of 512, and we already have Viper versus Vivi matching up here. Viper is the one in the favorite position here, as we do have him playing as the Rus on the right side in blue, and left side is going to be Vivi playing as the French in red. But you cannot help but wonder how poor the brackets are for Vivi, simply because he's way better than a player being eliminated in the round of 512, but he's getting one of the best, if not the best AoE 4 player out there right now, so it's a very, very tough matchup for him. On the other hand, it is only a best of one, so Vivi needs to just surprise Viper once, and that's basically it. We do have one ban from each player. I'll have to see if I can get up the draft. But it looks like we cannot. So they're actually doing a Civilization draft on AoE 2 CM, but that only stores like the recent 10 drafts, and since you have a lot of overlapping sets, you just won't be able to see the drafts that happened like more than 5 minutes ago. So I was trying to bring up the draft to see what civilizations they banned, because I feel like Viper has the civilization advantage over here with the Rus versus the French. French is your standard Arabia civilization in many cases, but the Rus definitely has its appeals with the fast castle cav archer build. But also, keep in mind that Viper is a smart player, so Viper might surprise Vivi over here. The fast castle is a powerful build, but it also means that if your opponent is just blindly expecting you to go fast castle, you can surprise him with something else, like potentially going for double stable knights and just pushing him off from gold. So, looking at Mr. Viper, he's currently on 2 scouts, already has gotten to the first bounty level over here. He's going to take that patch of huntables down. And you see, Vivi was trying to lure in one wolf over here, and Viper is moving up to try and damage that. Now, Viper has to play this one very smartly. He has to wait until Vivi damages that wolf. And this is gonna come down to a bit of a micro war here between 2 scouts. Vivi is pulling his own scout though, and that's the smart thing to do, because once you have 2 scouts here, you can one-shot the deer, so Viper won't be able to steal those away from you. And it looks like Vivi is just going to try and pull Viper to the right side and use his other scout. Viper is not giving up on this one though, but unless he has a second scout coming in here as well, it's going to be next to impossible for him to take those huntables. He's still trying though. He's running circles around Vivi, and you see he's just waiting for the opportunity to kill that wolf, but with 6 HP left, one shot is not enough from Viper, and Vivi's got 2 scouts worth of firepower, so Vivi finished off that wolf out there. And now, as I said, with 2 scouts you can just one-shot deer, so that's exactly what you want to do. Viper needs a second scout here if he wants to steal any deers here from his opponent. Is Viper an AoE 4 player? I mean, he's first of all, Viper is the single most accomplished AoE 2 player ever, and he won the first major AoE 4 event as well, the EGC Genesis, so we can say that he's a pro player, yes. Whereas on the other side, Vivi was also an AoE 2 pro player, especially in team games. So, you see Viper pulling away Vivi's scouts right now. He's probably looking for that wolf out there. He's at 190 bounty as he's going up with the Golden Gate to age 2. And it looks like Viper will have to retreat. There's a scout coming over though, and Viper might think about harassing those villagers out there on the gold mine, or just pull that scout closer to the right side and just try to harass his opponent even further. I love how Vivi is detaching one scout as Viper was running away, so he can just take down those deer. Although if he doesn't kill that deer, Viper is going to snag that. Vivi takes the shot, so Viper won't be able to grab it, and honestly, exceptional start from Vivi here, given the circumstances. He went for a second scout from his town center, and that basically meant that Viper has limited amount of bounty to work with. 190 in a 1v1 matchup is pretty decent accomplishment for Vivi. Viper could still pick up some more here, namely 30 gold that awaits to be picked up. But in general, the fact that you could keep the Rus player below 250 is an absolute dream for Vivi, because that 250 is a massive advantage in the long run, especially 10% villager harvest rate bonus is what starts to make that extremely powerful. Alright, Viper is up to Feudal Age, and let's see what he's up to. Looks like just an ordinary fast castle build over here. He's going for the professional scouts upgrade right now, pretty heavy on the wood department as well. Whereas for Vivi, he's going for the School of Cavalry. He's not really rushing it, and to me, this tells me that he doesn't really want to go super heavy on the nice department. He does have a mill going on, which is a sign that he wants to grab professional scouts though. So, I would expect professional scouts from Vivi as well, but as we discussed in the previous match that we have just seen, the Rus pretty much often... Why am I saying pretty much often? It's pretty much always. So pretty much always has the chance to steal some huntables from the opponent's side, because they will have one of the best professional scouts timing of the entire game. Tower coming up here for Viper. It will protect the southern part of this wood line and also boost the lumberjacking. And Viper is probably thinking about moving up for that hunt immediately. Vivi is going for a couple of knights though. Interesting. So with those knights, he could keep Viper's scouts in check. And Viper is still not picking up any huntables, so Viper is a little bit behind schedule here. He has gotten up to 255 bounty, which is definitely a good sign for him. He's going to start picking up his own hunt, but he won't be able to steal Vivi's hunt, which is already a massive accomplishment for the Fat Dragon, as he is coming in with a stable now. So double stables, a little risky, especially because if Viper gets to Castle Age, those stables will be pretty much obsolete. The Cav Archers will melt your Feudal Age Knights. On the other hand, Viper's start here wasn't spectacular. He was late with that 250 bounty level. He also had a limited amount of food to work with at the beginning. He's just now starting to ferry in deer. So there is definitely a timing here for Vivi to mass like 10-15 knights and just try to steamroll Viper's economy. And remember, it's only a best of one, so he just needs one good raid and he could knock Viper out of the tournament. Viper is the clear favorite of this matchup, but don't count out Vivi, especially in a best of one. Looking at the knights from Vivi, he currently can't really afford to produce knights consistently. You see his food income isn't spectacular, so because of that, he doesn't have a consistent knight production. Knights are already swooping in from him, but these will be damaged pretty heavily by the town center and the towers, and Viper is pretty close to Castle Age. I feel like those knights are just insufficient right now for Vivi to break this one. If he had like 10-15 knights, he could do quite a lot of damage with the raids, but 3, 4, 5 knights will be insufficient to deal significant damage, and Viper, once he's got the ticket on that Golden Gate, which just occurs to be right now, he's going to sell 100 wood, and he's going to be on the way to Castle Age. You know exactly that he wants to get up fast when he's sending 15 villagers. He relocates his Abbey of the Trinity to this side just to make sure it goes up. Vivi knows exactly his opponent is going into Castle Age. Looks like he's going to try and delay that landmark a tiny bit, but the problem here for Vivi is that he's investing a lot of resources into those knights, so unless he's starting to work towards Castle Age himself, this isn't going to help him that much. You see that Viper's base is very, very compact over here. Vivi is coming in with a sneaky tower, though. I haven't seen that, though. Oh, boy. This would be a great move if it came a minute earlier, because then you could cut off Viper from wood, and honestly, it might still work for Vivi. It's going to be difficult for Viper to access wood if that tower goes up. Speaking of which, Viper doesn't know about that tower just yet, and those knights are swooping in and out, delaying this Abbey of the Trinity quite a bit. It's not going to stop the Abbey of the Trinity, but it's going to buy some time for Vivi to get that tower up. And if that works out, you could cut Viper off from wood. And you need two things for Cav Archers, food and wood. In fact, the second archer range gets denied over here. This is a disaster for Viper. This is a disaster for Viper right now, because he's gonna be up to Castle Age, but at this point, his archer range is getting denied, his wood income could be in jeopardy, and that's exactly what Vivi needs. I still think that Viper will be able to edge this out, simply because unless Vivi is applying pressure just non-stop for the next 10-15 minutes, Viper will be able to get some Cav Archers out, and he could also go for a couple of crossbows to deal with the knights. So I feel like unless we are seeing this much pressure for Vivi for the next 10 or so minutes, Viper will be able to get some army out, and that's going to be enough to secure him map control. And then it's Castle Age units versus Feudal Age units. Another tower coming in here for Mr. Vivi. A little ambitious, close to that tower out here, I have to say. Vivi's knights are pretty heavily battered, and that villager should not get the tower up. The first horse archer is just now out. Vivi is not faring in deer, actually. He is just sending out villagers to the hunt, which is a little risky. He could just lose those villagers to Cav Archers any moment. We do have triple ranges right now for Mr. Viper. It's a little surprising, as I said, that he didn't go for a single crossbowman, but not really a mistake. He can deal with this using cav archers as well. Vivi's trying to crawl closer and closer to that wood line to deny it, but so far it's not really working, and I feel like Viper will have enough resources to just make a siege workshop and start taking those towers down with a mangonel or so. Meanwhile, other side, Vivi does have a blacksmith. He's going for a defense upgrade, which is pretty vital here. There's a lot of tower fire, town center fire nearby, and of course the cav archers. So you need that defense upgrade to keep your knights alive a little longer. Vivi could actually swoop in and get some villager kills on Viper. Here comes the first wave. There is one villager going down. And you see, Viper's cav archer numbers aren't amazing right now. The other villager actually survived, so it's only one going down. But this is exactly what Vivi has to do. Just tear apart Viper's economy with concentrates from multiple sides. Because the cav archers need to be kept alive to be effective. Two cav archers can't really act on their own. Whereas knights can act in small groups of 2 or 3 and just swoop in from the left, hit the economy of the opponent, and then disengage. And that's exactly what Vivi is planning right now. Is that... That tower is in the... Wait a minute. This is the range of the town center. How is the town center shooting at that tower? That's just so weird. That must be a bug. Viper is now moving up though with the cav archers. Vivi has to go multiple defensive towers against this one, and that's exactly what we are seeing from him. One over here, one over here. That still leaves that hunt very exposed, and if Viper just brings in the scouts, he can just yoink all the hunt out there. Viper already with one relic, and he's bringing in a couple more, so this is gonna be difficult for Vivi to hang on to, simply because he's fighting against the Castle Age army with Feudal Age units. And you see, scouts are coming in and they're like, okay, this is our hunt now. Knights coming in, and they do yoink one of those warrior monks. That's a nice find there. For Vivi, defensive towers are up, and we're seeing some archers coming out. But if you look at Vivi, he's going to start losing villagers now. Viper, on the other hand, doesn't have gold income, nor does he have food income. It's interesting because Viper's got 17 villagers garrisoned in that town center, and there's a lot of food near that town center, so it's just the idle time. He's probably focused on microing all those cav archers. Knights, once again, thinking about coming back to the wood line. There is enough cav archers to hold this one now, and it looks like Viper is just going to be happy taking away most of deer carcasses. One of them was actually lost over here close to the mill of Vivi. Vivi coming in though on that wood line. Viper's got enough firepower here, but I feel like at this point Vivi is not disappointed if he loses a couple of knights. If he can trade those off to villagers, Viper decides to go for a wooden fortress close to that wood line. So as things stand, Viper is picking up the relics. He's securing the sacred sites, currently sitting at 35 villagers. Vivi's at 42, so slight advantage in that department, but of course he doesn't have the relics working for him, so the incomes per minute are still fairly even in between the two players. Coming up with the cav archers is Mr. Viper. Archers will keep a nice track of them, as Vivi is still playing Feudal Age. The problem for him is that at some point Viper is gonna have a big enough cav archer mass to just start running into the range of those towers, into the range of the town center, and start killing villagers. So this is not necessarily sustainable here for the Fat Dragon, but he's definitely doing his best here, and if he can yoink that warrior monk, that would also help his case quite a bit. Towers in here are no longer a factor, as the archers actually take down some of the CA here. So, given the circumstances, I have to say that Vivi is doing a pretty decent job holding. Looks like Viper's got approximately 15 or so cav archers going for him right now, as some more join this group. Many of them are pretty heavily damaged though, so he still needs to be careful with those forces. Vivi currently sitting on one archer range, popping out some more archers as he gets housed for a brief moment. So now I feel like Viper just needs to start capturing those sacred sites. He needs to force his opponent to make a move, because he can't really engage against all those towers and all those archers inside Vivi's base. Might as well just cap the sacred sites. Viper is probably gonna take down the boar. Viper? He could have killed the boar for 75 gold. That would have been an option for him. Looks like the knights will take down most of the scouts from Viper. That's a little painful for our blue player, but this way Viper knows where those knights are, and now he's coming in to decimate them. I think Viper now has a blacksmith himself, and indeed he's just not grabbing the second attack upgrade, so from this point on, those cav archers will just melt those knights without problems. Looks like the Knights will try to take this sacred site up north. But there's still one over here for Viper. Viper is already at 3 relics. And I think a 4th one might be coming in already for him. Currently sitting at 19 military is the Fat Dragon. Viper is at 29. But they do have a decent amount of forces looping around. And if they hit Vivi's food line here, that might be game over. Vivi is still in Feudal Age, has quite a lot of gold, but his food income is still a little low. He just needs at least 2 more minutes until he gets to Castle Age. Knights might try to hit this food line out here, but Viper now has 2 defensive towers. He might be able to take down 2 or 3 villagers here, but it depends on Viper's reaction. Viper, a little slow to react over here. That's -2, -3 villagers out here. Warrior Monk also charging in. This has to be a good raid here for Vivi, but in exchange, Viper could swoop in and kill a couple of villagers as well, so all would be even once again. Indeed, there goes 1 villager out here. And the bigger deal is that there's 5 villagers sort of exposed over here as well. Notably, we have all 3 sacred sites under control of Viper, so he started that sacred site countdown, but we will have Vivi neutralizing at least 1 sacred site. He's also detaching 1 archer to take this, so Viper should not win on a sacred site terms. Vivi is once again coming in to hit Viper's eco at the back, as Viper moves up to just make sure that that sacred site remains under his control. And now we're seeing some knights coming out for Viper. It's possible that he will just add some Castle Age knights, so he has something to take those towers down with. And of course, it could be useful against future siege weapons as well, once we see Vivi getting up to Castle Age, because Vivi is not giving up on this. And even though he's on the back foot, the longer the game goes, the better his chances may be. It's weird to say because his opponent is sitting on a ton of relics. We're talking about 3 relics out here for Viper, and there's a 4th one in that monastery. But the biggest problem with dealing with the Rus fast castle build is that first 10 minutes of Castle Age, because in that time window, the Rus has a massive advantage. Even then, I feel like Vivi's chances are less than 5%, but you never know. The sacred site countdown is not shown on the screen. Indeed, very weird with the spec countdown as the cav archers come in, and now it's brute force numbers for Viper. With 4 relics under his control, he can just spam those cav archers all day, all night, because he can focus all his villagers on food and wood. He doesn't need to mine gold, so he can mass those cav archers very, very easily. And you see, Vivi's raiding party has been cleaned up from this point on. Viper is the one controlling the majority of the map. This is an extremely difficult build to counter, and it doesn't help that there's a skill gap in between the players. Even if this was 2 evenly skilled players, the cav archer build would be very difficult to counter. As I said, I didn't see the draft, so I have no idea what exactly Vivi banned, but it's a little surprising that we are seeing no ban on the Rus, because I think you don't want to fight against the Rus fast castle build at all. It's probably better to let your opponent play Mongols and try to play Mongols yourself or something, than to just let them play Rus fast castle, because this is one of the strongest builds in the game right now. There are answers to it, but it's very, very difficult to pull off, especially when your opponent is really skilled. As that is 5 villagers down here for the Fat Dragon on that exposed hunt. Guildhall on the way for him, so he's not giving up. He wants to go into Castle Age. He wants to go into Veteran Archers. But behind this one, Viper is on 3 sacred sites. He's even spamming hunting cabins everywhere. This is a pretty Viper thing to do. There are some other players that are also doing this one, but this is something that Viper does very frequently. First of all, this will get him the boar, which is a massive amount of food to work with, but it also gives him a nice trickle of gold close to that forest. He could drop those elsewhere as well, so he has a very, very good passive gold income over the course of the game. And oh boy, Viper knows. Viper won't leave this position anytime in the future, because this is a guild hole that he can continuously deny, and the longer he denies it, the worse Vivi's position will be, because currently Vivi is sitting in Feudal Age, and Viper knows exactly that that Castle Age might be the only hope of Vivi. And as I said, Viper just needs to deny this one, bring in some siege weapons against those foot archers, and he's gonna be all fine. You see that this guild hole might not even go up. The problem for Vivi here is that he didn't have a good spot to build it at. All of those close spots to his town center were taken by farms, so he had to walk all the way out here to build this. And now that is a huge force of horse archers. This guild hole is not going up, and Viper is moving on to the next round. Oh, there is also manganose from Viper. I haven't even seen that, but we're talking about a massive eco advantage. Viper has 711 passive gold income. That's from the relics and the hunting cabins combined. So you see his resource income is enormous, whereas Vivi's one is pretty much non-existent right now. Indeed, Vivi actually had a nice try here, and I'm not gonna lie, if he was up against someone else, so not like a top 5 AoE 4 player, he could have gone pretty deep in the tournament. He got heavily screwed over by the brackets, getting Viper in the first round. And with that, Viper takes the game, and with that move on to the second round. Funnily enough, I think Viper is going to have an easier opponent in the second round, simply because Vivi, as I said, was a very highly skilled player for a first round opponent here for Viper, and Vivi actually put up a decent fight here, but this is just a very, very difficult build to counter and respond to.